Christmas, Chapelgate, and thanks for joining us. Over the next 4 weeks, we will be taking time to explore the unimaginable Jesus by looking at the ways that Christmas carols capture the truth and hope of the gospel story. We hope that these episodes enhance your Advent experience and that you walk away from them feeling the peace, hope, and joy that this Christmas season is all about.
Hello and welcome back to week 2. It's December 7th. You are officially into December, Chapelgate, and we're so glad because it is week 2 of Advent. And so we're diving into yet another Christmas carol, looking at the words, what they mean and how they impact our lives, and really how they capture a piece or part or all of the gospel and speaks hope and joy into our lives. And I'm joined once again by Dan Passarelli and today by Ewan McMullen as well. So Dan, why don't you go ahead and tell us about what carol we're going to do, and then you can introduce our guest.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Rob. So last week we talked about O Come, Emmanuel, a song that paints kind of a dark picture of the world, but puts that right next to really the bright hope of rejoicing at the coming of Jesus. And this week we're exploring another song that is full of contrast. The song is What Child Is This? But before we kind of get into the words of the song, I want to say welcome, Ewan. Really glad to have you with us. Ewan, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of, what are you doing in life right now and your connection to Chapelgate?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on here, guys. Currently, I'm a freshman at Calvin University. Right now, I'm studying finance. I actually started out as an international relations major, but switched over. It's already been the first semester, so we're gonna see what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
but
I was an international relations major, but you're definitely forgiven for switching out. So finance is pretty cool too. So.
Yeah, look where you are now. Yeah, so my connection to Chapelgate is that my dad, he's one of the assistant pastors, and he runs a life counseling center. And I've always known about Chapelgate because my grandma has lived here for 30 plus years. We've visited here, so it's been somewhat part of my life, but especially since the past 2 years since moving here during June 2020. So
yeah, you guys moved here right during the pandemic, didn't you?
Oh yeah, the thick of it. It was when everything was unknown. It was rough.
Yeah. Rob, we just put a bookmark in that. We could probably do like a whole series of podcasts with Ewan about that, but that's not what we're here. We're talking about Christmas today. So, Ewan, what do you love about Christmas? Just what's kind of some of your favorite things about the season?
Oh yeah, Christmas has always been my favorite holiday by far. Starting as like a little kid, it would be like Halloween. Once Halloween was over, it'd be right to Christmas. I always had there's a picture of me with when we lived in Philadelphia, I had like a Eagles Santa Claus hat. I was always decked out. I just would say actually right now my Yankee Candle Christmas scent burning on. I just like being festive, having like that Christmas vibe, the energy. I'll have Christmas carols playing. I'd say I'm a pretty big Christmas guy.
Now, yeah, and for those of you listening who are not, I'll use the word as vibrant in age as me and Ewan. A vibe is it's a mood that carries a little more than just a feeling. It's something you set up. So like when you paint your room and the lighting's right, and you, like you're saying, you got the Christmas scent going on, maybe that like sweater and a cup of hot cocoa vibe.
Yeah, it's part of the aesthetic. The aesthetic, yeah.
If you don't know, now you know, Chapelgate. There you go.
Yeah. I don't know what to make of that, Rob, but thanks for that. So Ewan, you mentioned you're a freshman at Calvin. So how are you feeling about just kind of this being your first Christmas coming home from college?
Good. I really haven't been homesick that much. So I visited home twice already. So kind of visiting is just like, it's coming back home is like a visit. It's not really part of my life anymore.
Hmm.
So like when I'm at Calvin, that's my life. And when I come back here, it's just a visit. So I'm going to be working. It's going to be a nice little break though. But once the break's done, I'll definitely be ready to go back. That's how I'm currently feeling. I don't have any like strong feelings or opinions about it.
Yeah. Ewan, thanks for sharing about just kind of who you are and what Christmas is going to look like for you this year. So today we're talking about What Child Is This? And the carol, it's almost like asking this puzzled question. Like it can't really work out the answer at first. It asks, what child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? It's this kind of paradox almost. And I think, part of the reason we're doing these conversations is because we want to pay attention to the lyrics and notice what's going on in them. And so just noticing that, it's just this kind of like, it doesn't quite know what to make of Jesus. And I think that's a really profound question to ask that I think we don't even realize we're asking when we sing that song. And I wanted to kind of get into talking about this song by asking you, you sang choral in high school. And it was actually coming to see you sing in Old Ellicott City last year that really got me thinking about this, because you were there with like tons of other people singing all these songs about Jesus, who maybe some of them didn't even know what they were singing about. So like, how is it for you when you're performing, when you sing these songs about Jesus? Do you think about the words, or are you just kind of focused on the performance?
Yeah, so I would say in hindsight, looking back, well, in the moment, I really wasn't thinking about the words because I was focused on the performance. My choir teacher was like he was very serious, pretty professional. But I think I was thinking about this. I was kind of thinking not even about like the message we were sharing to like other people in Old Ellicott City, just kind of like my choral teacher and like the people within my choir, because I went to a public school, so not everyone's Christian, obviously.
Right.
And I just was wondering, and we would like rehearse these songs like an hour a day, every day for a few weeks. And I don't have an answer to this, but I just was kind of wondering, like, I wonder what these, like, do people think it's like stupid, like hearing this, or like, does it touch them in a certain way? Like, I don't have a specific answer, but that's just like what I kind of think about it. Because from an outsider's perspective, I mean, you'd be like, who is this Jesus guy who's like born on, if he's like the son of God, he's
right.
born
and
like in a manger, like
yeah, exactly. And I think and to me, that's part of what's cool about this song is it's asking that question: who is this kid? Who is this baby? So Rob, I know you did a little bit of kind of research in the background. I don't know if you want to speak a bit about the background of the song, or
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I love to look into it a little bit because it helps you understand. We talk about context, right? Who wrote this? Who'd they write it to? What's going on here? And the guy who writes this is really interesting because a lot of Christmas carols and hymns are written by ministers, but not this one. This is written by W. Chatterton Dix in and around 1860. And actually doesn't gain popularity for over 100 years. It's really not until after 1950 that this song even becomes popular around Christmas at all. But Chatterton Dix he's not a pastor. He's actually a marine insurance manager in England. And so he's like literally just a normal guy with a passion for writing poems and things about scripture. And this is really based off of Isaiah 9. 6 to 7, to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace, everlasting Father, mighty God, all those things, right? What child was that child from Isaiah? And so Chatterton Dix, like, he really captures that well in this song.
Yeah, I love that it was written by just an ordinary guy. I think sometimes we lose that behind the flowery old language, but he really does use just kind of everyday imagery. He talks in the second verse about how, he says, why lies he in such mean estate where ox and ass are feeding? Good Christian fear for sinners here, the silent word is pleading. Christmas is really the only time of year where we have songs that talk about specific barnyard animals. And what this sort of highlights for me as I read through the lyrics is how, we have the beauty of the birth of the Savior of humanity that's right up next to these pretty kind of basic, ordinary, you might even say kind of nasty conditions. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen an ox or a donkey feeding, but they're pretty nasty. Like, there's slobber everywhere. They're not clean eaters. So Ewan, I don't know. I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts, even as you hear those lyrics and kind of what that stirs up for you.
Yeah. I feel like when I just think of that, like that picture, I just think of like this sense of vulnerability. I don't really like know what it kind of connects to, but like, well, actually, yeah, like we've all been in that state when we're babies and just like vulnerable. And I feel like, I think what's really cool is that like Jesus has like walked the path of life that we all have, and like has just like made himself like relatable to us. And like people in third world countries have been born in the same, like similar or same conditions that Jesus has, and that just like, that also just connects to like God's love too, that like God just didn't come for like the wealthy, but he also just came for like the poor too. So yeah, I don't really like know what that all connects to, but those are just kind of like the first kind of things that just come to my mind. So
I love that. And I especially like just the observation that we're all babies, right? Or we all were babies at one time. It talks about Jesus being, as a baby, being the silent word who's pleading. Do you even know what does that make sense to you, that line?
Not really.
You and I'm with you. I feel like, we kind of talked about this in a previous episode, but a lot of times we sing these songs and we just kind of breeze right on through these words. And this is one of those lines that literally until today, when I was forced to prepare for this podcast, I'm 31 years old. I've probably sang this song 15 times every Christmas. So that's at least 23 times. And I'm sitting here like, I've never stopped to like consider, what does it mean for the silent word to be pleading? So Dan, I mean, I'm with you on this one. This is a mystery to me.
Yeah. And, I'm not sure I have the exact answer, but as I've thought about it, I went back to, again, I love how you brought up that we were all babies, because it got me thinking about, the experience of being a baby. And babies are loved, right? They're just loved for who they are. They don't contribute anything really to the life of the family. They don't, they just lay there. They're quiet until they're not, and then you got to deal with them, right? But they're loved. And I think what it means for the silent word to be pleading for sinners is that God loved his son. He loves his son. And Jesus, even as a baby, is lying there in the manger. And it's as if he's saying to God, the way you love me, that's how you love sinners who believe in me.
Amen.
So love me and love all these people who are like me. or not who are like me, but who believe in me. And I think it actually got me thinking about this reality that we live in a world where you're loved if you perform. You're loved if you do well. You're a college student. Your life, I'm guessing, is probably strongly ruled by the need to perform, especially in your classes. Just what's it like living in that world of performance?
Yeah. Okay. This might sound a little crazy, but I kind of like it. It keeps me.
Okay, that's great.
It keeps me motivated, and it like makes me like reach for like it like makes me have goals. It keeps me motivated. That's what I really enjoy about it. But I was thinking about this today. I think a big struggle in like these upcoming years and probably for the rest of my life is going to be comparing myself to other people with like I mean I was always comparing myself to other people like in high school like on just like a social hierarchy level. But now it's just kind of be like, oh, like who got this internship, like who got this job. It's yeah, like I can perform as best as I can, but people are just gonna have different opportunities than I am. And it's just like nothing like in particular has happened yet, but I just know that it's like to come. So it's just like kind of like a new reality for me, like in this kind of new world of performance and just becoming an adult. So
Yeah, man, I can remember that feeling, you, and I like remember it really, really well. And maybe because it's not like terribly that long ago for me, but I even remember like when I was applying for colleges, like that experience of, putting yourself down on a piece of paper, your grade point average, your extracurriculars, your, charitable actions, your leadership, all these things, like your personality, and sending those things off to the different colleges that you're trying to get into. And I remember like there was one college in particular that I wanted to go to really, really bad. And I started getting letters back, and I probably, I don't know why I did this. I applied to like 12 schools. It was really dumb. It was a huge waste of money, but I did it
too. Don't worry.
Yeah. Thank you. And so, I'm getting these letters back, and it's like, congratulations. And like, here's some scholarship money. We love you. And it felt so good. But of course the one I want to go to comes last. Right. And it's like 3 weeks later than everybody else. And when it's coming that late, you know what it's going to say. And it said exactly what y'all listening think it said. It said, sorry, you weren't good enough. And kind of wrapping my head around that, I was as thinking about, you're in college, you're going through this performance world, transactional world. I was like, that next line brings so much comfort to me. Come peasant, come king, own him. Own Jesus. And what a different economy to be a Christian, to be invited by the silent word who pleads on my behalf. Come, Ivy League school, come community college, come trade school, come McDonald's. I don't care. I love you. Man, that's encouraging.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering, Ewan, what do you think? And I'd love to just kind of see where your mind goes on this. But what do you think it might mean for you to kind of live out that good news that God's love for you isn't tied to your performance at all?
Yeah. So I just was talking to my mom about this, and we like related it to the Shakespeare quote. Basically, it summed up like all the world's a stage and everyone has like their own part. And like, I think for me, I think particularly hard for me is like, my dad has been like in ministry his whole life. He knew that he wanted to be a youth ministry, like he was a youth ministry major in college, like he kind of knew from the get-go. He's been in ministry his whole life. And it's like throughout high school, like applying to colleges, picking a college. I mean, Calvin's a Christian university. it was kind of hard to choose, like, who am I going to be? What am I going to do? But I just kind of, it's just all kind of like God's process of like me figuring out, like, okay, at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to be, I'm not going to be a youth ministry major or a pastor from like the get-go, but I might be like an elder in a church in a few years from now, or work for like a nonprofit for something. And it doesn't even have to be a Christian organization. Like, I'm just glorifying God and honoring God like the best I can. That's just how I've kind of just gone about thinking, like, my profession, my life, my future. It's like, I don't necessarily have to be in a ministry job to glorify God. And like, that took a bit for me to figure out, just because we literally lived in Austria for a year because my parents were like missionaries. Like, it was hardcore. It was hardcore stuff. So I've been doing a lot of praying, thinking about it. And we'll see where God takes me with all of this. So
yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. We were missionaries for 6 years in London. Knew your family while we were there. You guys came through on your way to Austria, and stopped and saw us. But I definitely, faced that reality of thinking and forgetting that God's love for me wasn't tied into what I did for God. And whether that service is, as a missionary or a pastor or just, in life, God's love for us is not tied to what we do for him. And that can be, I appreciate you just kind of sharing even the struggle to kind of figure out life as in light of that, because I think for so often we say those words, I know God loves me, but then when it comes to the nitty gritty of how that works out in our lives, it's messy. It's not neat and clean. The answers aren't always clear. The direction's not always clear.
Nevertheless, the time of darkness and despair will not go on forever. We have seen a great light. The unimaginable Jesus is here, shining in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome him. On behalf of everyone here at Chapelgate Church, we hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Thanks for listening.